Funding for the Maddy Report is made possible by grants from Community Health System, Fresno State Associated Students, Inc., Harris Ranch Resort, Producers Dairy, the Spencer Family, and The Wonderful Company. Additional support provided by the Maddy Institute, the Public Policy Institute for the Valley's 4 public universities. This is the Maddy Report with Executive Director of the Maddy Institute, Blake Zanti.
Welcome to the Maddy Report. I'm Blake Zanti, Executive Director of the Maddy Institute. Today we'll be discussing 2 reports on artificial intelligence, or AI, with Pedro Nava, Chair of the Little Hoover Commission. Pedro, first of all, welcome to the Maddy Report. Really appreciate you being on the program. I know you've been a guest in the past, and so we're glad to have you back. For viewers who may not be familiar, could you just briefly explain what is the Little Hoover Commission and why does it play such a crucial role in California's governance?
It's interesting about the Little Hoover Commission, and thank you again for giving us an opportunity to share some of our experience with your viewers. But the Little Hoover Commission is essentially like a grand jury for the state of California. Our responsibility is to review the executive branch operations, so that means what goes on in the governor's office, as well as the agencies that have such a tremendous impact on everyday Californians' lives. Now, the commission was formed in 1962, and it was modeled after a federal Hoover Commission, actually a commission that was headed up by Herbert Hoover, but it only lasted at the federal level for a couple of years. The Little Hoover Commission in California is, interestingly enough, the only entity like that in the entire country. Other commissions get put together to study projects and then they disband, but we are full-time with respect to how we do our work. There's 13 members of us, 4 come from the legislature, 2 senators, 2 assembly members. The other members of the commission are appointed by the governor, the assembly, and the Senate, and we are not paid. People who serve on the commission do so because they care about California and they love California and they want to contribute to making it the best it can be.
And Chairman, can you briefly touch on the research process that the Commission goes through to gather information and consider ways to promote, economy, efficiency, and improve service in state government?
Yeah, that's a great question because not many people know how it works. But actually, the topics that we take on can come to us through members of the public, through members of the legislature, from commissioners themselves, or from oftentimes the governor's office. So, for example, we just issued a report on a proposed reorganization that was proposed by the governor to create 2 agencies, one for housing and homelessness and another one for consumer affairs. But once we take up a subject, a topic, staff will take a look at it. They prepare a scoping memo. It comes back to the commission. We have further discussions and say, we think this is an issue that is of significance to all of the people in California. Then once we launch our study, we hold hearings. We bring in witnesses, experts, lay people, people who are different stakeholders. We conduct sort of evidentiary hearings in sort of a way. We take testimony. We review all of the material, background material associated with it, create a report, and then our audience is primarily the governor and the legislature, and our job is to come up with recommendations that we think will make improvements, and then try to persuade the administration to either adopt it as regulations or to introduce laws.
And we'll be discussing 2 reports produced by the Commission on Artificial Intelligence. Broadly speaking, before we dive into the reports later in the show, many people are thinking about the implications of AI on business and the economy. How is AI going to transform state government?
Well, we are optimistic in that artificial intelligence will be used to improve government operations and services. We already know that there are many times that there is repetitive work that is being done by people. And we think that AI, when used appropriately, can be helpful in taking some of those redundant actions, putting them over in the AI column, and allowing state workers to be more creative in addressing issues that confront people in California.
Well, up next, we'll discuss the Commission's report titled Artificial Intelligence, Food Insecurity, and California's Vulnerable Populations. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back. Millions of Californians rely on state and county programs to meet their basic needs. In August 2024 alone, more than 5.5 million residents, approximately 14% of the state's population, received food assistance through CalFresh, California's implementation of the federal SNAP program, commonly known as food stamps. Yet an equally large number of residents who are not enrolled in CalFresh still struggle to afford enough nutritious food for themselves and their families. In response to this growing crisis, the Little Hoover Commission released a report in December of 2024 exploring how California could leverage artificial intelligence, or AI, to address food insecurity and improve outcomes for the state's most vulnerable populations. Chairman Nava, thanks again for joining us on the show. Considering this, why is this important, and what gaps could the power of artificial intelligence help bridge?
Well, thank you for the question. We know that artificial intelligence isn't going to eliminate hunger or low enrollment in the programs, but it's an additional tool that can prove to be very helpful in getting people enrolled. So we already know that the technology can make a difference. It's already being applied in certain ways to help people get their paperwork in for food assistance and other services. So you want to make the application easier. You want to make it easier to renew when people, once they get into the program. And you also want to be able to use artificial intelligence to sort of knit together all the other programs that people are eligible for so that they can be helped not just with the food issues, but with also other additional social services.
And the Commission's report emphasizes the role of AI in increasing CalFresh enrollment. Considering around 25% of those who are eligible for CalFresh aren't enrolled, what specific AI applications are envisioned to identify and assist eligible individuals not currently enrolled?
Yeah, and I think it's important to emphasize that, you've got 25% of people who are eligible, they're not receiving services. If you're a baseball player and you miss 25% of the things that you strike out 25% of the time, you're not doing all that well. So we think it can be a lot more efficient. So what happens to people when they get to enrollment is confusing. And if it's confusing to them, they'll abandon it or they'll just give up. They're not going to know, or they may miss their interviews. They may lose their paperwork. They may worry about a member of their family's immigration status. And sometimes people actually feel a little embarrassed that they need the help. And so with artificial intelligence, it can help eliminate those barriers and just make it much simpler and easier for people to get into the program and to stay enrolled and to be renewed.
And the report also discusses how AI could help support small farmers by identifying grant opportunities and employing adaptive AI technologies. Chairman, could you elaborate on how this could potentially help small farmers in the San Joaquin Valley, a region where many small farmers are concerned about the future of agriculture in our state?
Yeah, I mentioned that I was fortunate enough to spend a fair amount of time in the Central Valley and in Fresno, specifically working with the Fresno Employment and Training Commission, and then for a number of years I was a deputy DA in Fresno. So I know a little bit about the area, and I know how wonderful the people are in the Central Valley, and how important the Central Valley is to California, culturally, economically, agriculturally. So small farmers are sometimes at a disadvantage. It's hard to do everything you need to do to keep your farm operating, and large farms are going to have more resources, and they tend to be able to get technology sooner than other places have. So small farmers need some help. So you look at UC Davis. UC Davis is using artificial intelligence to help with AI-guided pesticide targeting so that you save money and that you only use the amount that's absolutely necessary. And then what we want is a greater role for the state of California to provide the benefits of artificial intelligence to all of the people, and in particular farmers, so that small farmers aren't burdened economically by having to spend a lot of money to gain access to the benefits of artificial intelligence.
Well, thanks, Chairman Nava, for that analysis. We'll be right back after this break. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back to the Maddy Report. Another aspect of the Little Hoover Commission's report discusses the implications of AI on addressing food insecurity for college students. Given that the Maddy Institute has partnered with Fresno State, CSU Stanislaus, CSU Bakersfield, UC Merced, and now the State Center Community College District, this is something particularly of interest to our viewers. Chairman, the report found that many college students eligible for CalFresh didn't take advantage of the benefits. What drives this, and how can AI help close this gap?
It really is distressing when you think that there are college students that are having problems getting enough to eat. And if we are going to have a brighter future than possible, we need to make sure that students get the advantages that they need and the resources that they need. But oftentimes, particularly with Latino and Black students, they suffer from food insecurity at a greater degree than others. So, for example, there's only about 1 in 4 eligible students who actually enroll in CalFresh. So once again, 25% are not involved. So often people are confused or they're fearful. They may not know, students may not know that they qualify. They find the application to be unnecessarily complicated. They worry about having to ask for help. Again, people are proud. They don't want to let people know that they need assistance. Artificial intelligence can help with all of that by streamlining the process and keeping the information current so that it's available. Now, we can use artificial intelligence to, one, identify students who are eligible, and then we can do targeted outreach with AI, and then help them through the application process. You also can use AI, again, to coordinate, to stitch together the different services that could benefit students. So, for example, targeted outreach, helping them get through the application process. You get financial aid, basic needs centers, and other student support programs. That way they don't fall through the cracks and they get the help they need.
Now, I want to transition to the other report titled Artificial Intelligence in California State Government, authored also back in December of 24. Chairman, could you just give us a brief overview of the key findings in this report?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's tremendous potential to improve state services. And one of the important things to do is to make sure that the actual employees in state service get the kind of help, assistance, and training so that they are familiar with artificial intelligence. So at the same time, I think our report makes sure that we want to do that in a responsible way. You have to make sure that the outputs are accurate. You don't want to protect against data breaches. And also you want to make sure that artificial intelligence isn't used to displace workers and the services that they provide. You just want it to be efficient, you want it to be responsible, and you want it to be accessible. So one of the important recommendations that we make is we think the state of California should operate a cloud-based AI computing center. Why? Because it's important that people, as many people as possible, have access to artificial intelligence. And one of the ways to do that is that it be operated by the state of California so that it's available to all of the people in California, and it's not going to be reduced to only those who have enough money to be able to pay to sign up for those kinds of services. We also want to make sure that, again, state workers through forums, agency position statements, and an artificial intelligence ombudsman are there to help build public trust so that artificial intelligence is accepted, adopted, and put to use.
And the report also, proposes that California should develop a state-run AI computing center. Why should it be state-run, and why does government need to be involved in the regulation of AI?
Well, I think that there's something to be said for the private sector and what they're doing with artificial intelligence, but we can never forget that the first obligation of private sector investment is to the investors and not necessarily to everybody who could benefit from artificial intelligence. You don't want to make artificial intelligence benefits only be available to people who have enough money so that they can afford the services. If the state, as we recommend, have an artificial intelligence center, that means that nonprofits, that agencies throughout the state of California, that researchers, and that members of the public will have the ability to access artificial intelligence and its benefits. Besides that, if the state operates an AI center, you can implement protections. You need guardrails. We have plenty of people that are familiar with artificial intelligence in the industry who are warning us that it has to be done in a responsible way so that the harm doesn't outweigh the benefits. And so if a state runs an AI center, it's available to more people. We can establish responsibly the guidelines to ensure that it's used in a safe and secure manner.
And according to the report, how can AI help empower state workers?
Well, state workers are the most significant aspect of delivering services to people in the state of California. Think of all the agencies that are a part of your everyday life that could benefit from artificial intelligence. So we want state workers to be comfortable with artificial intelligence so that they embrace it and they want to use it every day in the kind of work that they do. At the same time, We think it's important to have an artificial intelligence ombudsman, someone who the workers can speak to when they see problems developing with artificial intelligence, so that it is applied fairly and the benefits are available to more people than possible. We want artificial intelligence to take over the repetitive, time-consuming, routine things like reviewing email, like looking at data entry. That way you can have workers apply their creative thinking to helping to resolve some of the issues that come up and deliver better services to people in California.
We'll be right back to wrap up our conversation with Pedro Nava, chair of the Little Hoover Commission. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back. Chairman Nava, thanks again for joining us on the program today. Before you go, I want to transition to a broader conversation on AI and state government, sort of capturing everything that we've talked about today. What can we learn from other governments around the country and the world with respect to AI governance?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because one of the things that the Little Hoover Commission does when we do our studies is we take a look around at who's doing what we want to do, and who's already has experience, and who maybe is doing it better, and what can we learn from it. So look at Singapore as an example. Now, they built some AI tools similar to Chat GPT specifically for their government workers. And they're also testing other technologies like facial recognition for border entry. Now, if you've done any traveling, now when you go through customs, particularly if you use a service called Global Entry, they're already doing facial recognition. So that's a part of everyday life for us. On the regulatory side, because again, you do need to have reasonable controls on this stuff, the European Union's AI Act is the most comprehensive attempt yet to set out clear rules to protect the public from AI-related harm. In the U.S., the government, there's an entity called the Government AI Coalition, started by the city of San Jose. It's growing and sharing information with other local governments, using best practices and talking about different policy ideas. It's helping cities adopt AI in a creative but a responsible way, particularly in the areas of procurement and in training.
And how can AI enhance the public's ability to connect with their state government and elected officials? Is this something that is considered within the report or the reports that we talked about earlier?
Yeah, we don't really drill down too much on that specifically, but we can tell from the work that we've seen and the people that we've talked to that artificial intelligence can play an important role in making government more efficient. So let's take public comment, right? So public comment is an important part of any exchange between constituents and their representatives. And with their agencies, you often have meetings where public comment is taken. Now, currently, you have to have somebody sit down and take a look at the testimony and make notes on what happened, how many times a particular topic has been raised by members of the public. Using artificial intelligence, they can listen to that in real time, create transcripts of what has been said, identify key words that are repeatedly used over and over again, and to give you a clearer idea of the emphasis that the public has expressed. You have large amounts of text that AI can evaluate and look at and pull out again those ideas and those concepts that are repetitive and that are of greater significance. So the report didn't really focus on it, but it's clear from what we saw and what people have been telling us that there's great promise with artificial intelligence in improving government services.
And what future challenges will California lawmakers face with respect to AI? What do they need to be aware of, and how should the legislature prepare for these challenges?
Yeah, there is a tension. I don't think there's an easier way to say it, but there is a tension between some of the AI developers, private industry, and government. And on the one hand, you have some people in private industry that are saying, leave us alone. We're going to do this the way we want. We know how to do this. But I think we've already seen that there are reasonable steps that need to be taken by government who have a responsibility to protect the greater interest of the public. So the legislature, like the California legislature, has a responsibility and duty to have active conversations with stakeholders to come up with regulations for artificial intelligence that, one, can provide safety for the public, but that, two, don't unnecessarily handcuff or constrain the development of artificial intelligence. But you need to make sure that it's accurate. You want to make sure that you protect the privacy, and there's issues with cybersecurity. that are important for all of us. You've got to take a look at what's happening with the abuse of artificial intelligence for deep fakes, manipulation, right? So you have revenge porn, you've got misleading political content, and you've got to be able to address security risks of artificial intelligence because it can be damaging to a state's infrastructure.
Well, Chairman Nava, thank you for joining the Maddy Report today. It was a pleasure to have you back on the program, and thank you for all the great work that the Little Hoover Commission continues to do.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. And as we were talking about sometime earlier, being on this program is a great opportunity for Little Hoover Commission to continue with the legacy of Ken Maddy, his interest and his willingness to work with people across the aisle in order to find the best solutions to provide the greatest benefit to the largest number of people. And it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you to all of you for tuning into the Maddy Report. To learn more about the Maddy Institute, visit themaddyinstitute.org. What makes a community thrive? How do we bridge the gap between government and policy and the people it impacts? The Maddy Institute was founded to answer questions like these, to create a link between government and the citizens it serves, and to inspire a new generation of leaders dedicated to public service. In 1999, the California legislature unanimously established the Maddy Institute in honor of former California State Senator Kenneth L. Maddy. Senator Maddy was widely respected for his commitment to bipartisan solutions and his dedication to the people of California's Central Valley. Known for his ability to work across the aisle, Senator Maddy believed that effective government begins with respectful dialogue, evidence-based policy, and a commitment to the common good. Today, the Maddy Institute continues his legacy. Our mission is threefold. 1, to promote more effective and inclusive government. 2, to encourage civic engagement. And 3, to conduct research on key issues impacting the Central Valley. Through these efforts, we aim to educate, inspire, and empower the next generation of public servants and community leaders. At the heart of everything we do is a belief that good governance requires an informed and engaged public. From nurturing young leaders to fostering dialogue, the Maddy Institute is dedicated to creating a future where the people of the Central Valley can thrive. Join us as we continue Senator Maddy's legacy. Together, we can build a brighter future, one informed and engaged citizen at a time. The views expressed in the Maddy Report are those of the individuals participating in the program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Maddy Institute. If you'd like to share your thoughts about today's episode of the Maddy Report, please visit our website at maddyinstitute.com.